So imagine inheriting leadership of like a massive global organization, but the only legal document that actually details your succession demands that you hand the keys over to a biological child that everyone knows you're physically incapable of having.
Yeah, that is a pretty wild historical paradox, and
Yeah.
it's actually the center of our deep dive today. We're looking at this fascinating article by Grover Gonzales. It's called Ruhiyyih Khanum's Two Cables Announcing the Death of Shoghi Effendi.
Right, and just a quick note for you listening, we are exploring these events strictly as historical mechanics today. We're not, endorsing any religious viewpoints or taking sides. We just want to figure out how a global faith pivots when its foundational rules suddenly break.
And I mean, they broke spectacularly in 1957. So Shoghi Effendi, who is the guardian of the Baha'i faith, dies suddenly. And the immediate crisis is, well, he has no heir.
But Gonzales points out this wasn't really a sudden tragic surprise, right? Like, Shoghi Effendi had a known physiological condition that caused infertility.
Exactly. And the crazy part is, his grandfather, Abdu'l-Bahá, actually knew about this well in advance. He even called it a sign of God.
Wait, I have to push back on that logic for a second. If Abdu'l-Bahá knew for a fact that an heir was impossible, why would he draft a binding legal document, his will and testament, demanding that Shoghi Effendi be succeeded by his firstborn descendant?
Right? It seems totally contradictory.
It's like leaving a treasure map to an island, for a fact doesn't exist.
It really is. But Gonzales offers a really compelling theory for this. He suggests that Abdu'l-Bahá's highly educated wife, Monera Khanum, strongly desired to establish like a royal lineage of imams from her own bloodline.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the theory is that Abdu'l-Bahá included that firstborn requirement strictly to placate her, fully aware that it could never actually happen.
Okay, so because the will demanded an impossible heir, the moment Shoghi Effendi dies in his sleep in London, this massive power vacuum just instantly opens up.
Instantly. And his widow, Ruhiyyih Khanum, she has to manage this real-time chaos. And she does it by sending two very distinct cables.
Great. So cable one.
Yeah, the first cable goes to Leroy Iowas of the International Baha'i Council. And it states Shoghi Effendi is, quote, desperately ill, even though, he had actually already passed away.
Wait, really? Why say he's ill if he's already dead?
Well, by addressing this specific council, she was subtly recognizing its authority, kind of laying the groundwork, since Shoghi Effendi had previously called its formation an epoch-making decision.
Ah, okay. But the second cable, the one sent to the general believers, that's where the real pivot happens.
Exactly. She announces his death there, but she urges followers to cling to the institution of the hands.
Which were, essentially the faith's elite spiritual advisors.
Right. And that single telegram shifted the entire governance structure. It allowed Ruhiyyih Khanum and the hands to form a 9-member body called the Custodians, basically taking over a quasi-guardianship role.
But if she had no foundational document actually giving her or this new committee that authority, how on earth did she get this huge global organization to just hand over the keys?
She used a pretty brilliant legal workaround, honestly. Since they lacked a theological document, they just relied on administrative consent.
Yeah.
They had all the national assemblies officially pledge allegiance to the custodians.
Wow. I guess in a moment of sheer panic, the assemblies were just desperate for stability.
Yeah, and the custodians offered a unified front, which really makes the situation with Mason Remé so ironic.
Right, because unlike the custodians, Remé actually did have a documented title.
He did. He was the president of the embryonic Universal House of Justice. I mean, he was perfectly positioned to just step up, resolve the crisis, and call for the election of this supreme governing body.
He was like the logical administrative bridge.
Exactly. But instead of calling that election, Remé succumbed to what Gonzales calls a delirium de grandeur. He looked at his role as president of this embryonic body and convinced himself that, well, this title basically made him the guardian by default.
So he tries to claim the ultimate leadership role based on a technicality.
He made that leap, yeah. And Gonzales describes this as spiritual suicide. Remé's claim was entirely rejected. He was expelled by his fellow hands as a covenant breaker.
Which means someone who actively breaks the unity of the faith.
Right. He ended up dying largely forgotten. But the really fascinating part is that despite all this crazy internal maneuvering, the administrative goal was still reached. The Universal House of Justice was successfully elected just a few years later, in 1963.
It's wild. It really shows how, a deeply kept biological reality and 2 telegrams completely re-engineered the administrative destiny of a whole global faith.
Yeah, and Gonzales notes a really poignant detail at the very end of this timeline. He points out how quickly Abdu'l-Bahá's will and testament, that very document demanding a biological heir, it just kind of disappeared from all shelves in certain regions after the guardianship ended.
That brings us right back to that phantom treasure map idea. It really invites you to wonder how much of recorded history is shaped not just by the bold orders leaders shout from the deck, but by the foundational documents they just quietly lock away in a box when a crisis hits?